Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear brothers and sisters, and welcome back to another episode of How the Quran Changed Me. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala let us change with the Quran, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala let the Quran be in our hearts, not just in our hands, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make the Quran a plea for us on Judgment Day, not against us, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this Quran, inshallah, to share us on Judgment Day, and walk in the footsteps of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as he was the Quran walking. And the khuluq was the Quran, as Aisha radiallahu anhu wardaha, an ummahatumina ajma'in. Again, this is at your service, for slave to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Brother Allah, thank you again for bringing us to your homes. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect your family, health and wealth. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again make us among those who listen to speech and follow the best of it. Ameen. This episode is going to talk about a woman. And before I go there, I always remember that Ibn al-Qayyim rahmatullahi alayhi says that the ummah comes from the word as we mentioned before, mother. And they give birth to the other half. That means they are the half of the ummah. And they give birth to the other half of the ummah, so he says they are the whole ummah. Women are the whole ummah. So my brothers and sisters, I want you to remember something I'm going to mention to you in the beginning of this episode. I'm going to remind you again in the end of this episode. Have you heard the saying, his mother's boy? Have you heard that before? You know what that means? Yeah, his mama's boy. Mama's boy is, you know what? His mother has control over him. He has no say, and he was raised by a mother, not a man, and so on. Has a negative connotation. So let me take you through this episode, inshallah. I'm going to remind you again of what I said earlier on in the end of this episode, and let's see how you think about it this time. So today we're going to talk about Imam al-Shafi'i, rahmatullahi alayh. Her name was Fatima bint Abdullah al-Azdiyah. She was from that tribe. The Fatima radiallahu anha was a parable, very difficult to compare. To see that Imam al-Shafi'i rahmatullahi alayhi was born in 2 years, he was an orphan. And how she carried the weight. She devoted her whole life to raise him. She recognized a few things in him, and she devoted her life to so without getting married again. She was the mother and the father figure for him. She had to work so hard that you will see in the end of this episode about the points that we will take and derive from this beautiful story of the benefits of this beautiful, magnificent woman that had held her own and raised a child to be among the 4 greatest scholars. We understand that there are so many scholars of the ummah, but these were the scholars that were renowned, and even the whole ummah agreed and accepted to be among the 4 school of thoughts that they agree upon. So now when we understand what Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahmatullahi alayhi said in his honor, he says, فَقَدْ كَانَ رَحْمَةُ اللَّهِ كَالشَّمْسِ لِلدُّنْيَا وَالْعَافِيَةِ لِلْبَدَنِ. He says he was like the sun to this earth, to this life. And he says he was like the strength to the body. Can you imagine a life without a sun? Can you imagine this earth without a sun? It would not be. And you can imagine to have a body with no strength? There is none. It was just a piece of flesh that's laying down. So Shafi'i, according to Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, he was like that. He was that type of man. And his student, he says, إسحاق ibn Rahawiyya, يقول وقال وما ظننت أن الله خلق مثل هذا. I never thought Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would create a human like such. والله لم يرى عيناي مثله. By Allah, my eyes have never seen anything like him. Even though we're talking about the mother of a Shafi'i, but it's only an indication of what the mother has done for a Shafi'i. So if we talk about the greatness of the mother of Shafi'i, we also have to talk about the greatness that she raised. So it will be more collaborating between a mother, the son, and the mother herself. In order for us to understand, to see how much she had put blood, sweat, and tears, where she actually sold her house to give the Shafi'i the ability to be able to acquire knowledge. They had no money, as you will see, says. فَهُوَ حُجَّةٌ فِي التَّفْسِيرِ وَعُلُومِهَا. Al-Shafi'i rahmatullahi alayhi is actually not known for the tafsir. We know that. But believe it or not, if you go into the tafsir of Shafi'i, you will be mesmerized. You'll be blown away. How the Shafi'i rahmatullahi, how eloquent he was. Because he studied not just ulum al-tafsir, ulum al-fiqh, ulum al-hadith, al-firasa. He was so insightful. He would be able to see a person, he would tell you he's that type of a person. As a matter of fact, he had to travel to Yemen he was telling his mother after he came, and the story, he was actually born in Palestine. Yes, I said it, Palestine. Are you happy now? You know what? He was born there. His father died. 2 years later, his mother made a decision to take him to Mecca. Why? Because Mecca was his actually lineage. He was from At-Talibi, from Abdul Muttalib, from the lineage of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So thought he'd go back to his roots. He didn't want him to lose the language. He didn't want to lose that progeny and the link and the kins of ties. He also wanted to make sure that he would learn the Arabic properly. So she took him to Huzayl. Huzayl is a tribe that was perfecting the Arabic. So we will learn, just keep what I'm saying in mind, and look at the points I'm going to tell you in the end. And I'm talking to the mothers especially on this episode. And when he found out that in Mecca, because of course the ulama were there, when he learned everything he learned, and then she found out that Imam Malik rahmatullahi alayhi was in Medina, she had to travel to Medina. Oh, my mother, I learned the Quran, I learned from the ulama, but there's ilm in Medina. She said, go son, here's what you have. And she would send kusayrat. You know what that means? Morsels of food. You know what that is? They said it's like pieces of bread and some dates. She had to send from Mecca, had nothing. She had to send from Mecca to a caravan that is going to Medina, take these pieces of bread to my son and some dates so he can actually eat. Allahu Akbar ya Shaykh. The sacrifice they had to go through and the difficulties they had to endure in order for us to provide a shafi'i for the ummah. Amazing. So you think that you can just sit back and chill and do nothing, read a little booklet, go online and do whatever. Oh, I'm a scholar now. May Allah help you, wallahi. I've dealt with these brothers that they now think that they come in the masjid. That's it. Stop everyone. I'll give you fatwa. I come in. I have nothing. Don't worry about me. Have no fear. I am here. May Allah help you, wallahi. So you understand Ibn al-Qayyim rahmatullah. He says, you know, when you start acquiring knowledge, as we talked about, he says, first you have to do what? Arrogance. Yes? I read something. I am so scholarly now. Then after this, you do what? You put humbleness. Humbleness is after you learn that you think that you have the knowledge, and some people ask you a question, and then you don't even know what the question means. You get humbled. Yes? Because first you get arrogance. Oh my God, I know something. I read a book that you didn't. I studied under the sheikh. I read this, whatever. Subhanallah, ajib ya sheikh. You understand now why the ulama are like the fruit of the tree. When the tree bears fruit, the branches come down to earth. They're heavy. And that's how the scholars teach us. And then after the arrogance and the humbleness, and the third stage is what? Ignorance. Because the more you know that you don't know. So imagine a Shafi'i rahmatullah alayhi. He used to drink the water of Zamzam. He says, oh Allah, you know, he used to drink the Zamzam with the intention of ilm. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted him ilm, knowledge. Because the hadith says, Zamzam lima shuriba lahu. You drink Zamzam with the intention, Allah will grant you that. So he said he drank Zamzam with the knowledge, with the intention of knowledge. Allah granted him knowledge. Look at his humbleness. He says, شربنا زمزم للعلم فتعلمناه. وددت لو شربنا زمزم للتقى. Taqwa. He's saying that he doesn't have taqwa. He said, I wish I had drank Zamzam so I can actually say taqi, not just knowledgeable and so on. Subhanallah, ajib. He says, I wish I was taqi, I wish I was knowledgeable, I wish I could get shafa'ah from these people. And he says, and لست منهم, I am not of them. So his students would say, أنت منهم, we want you shafa'ah. Look at the beautiful relationship, wallahi, again, getting goosebumps between the relationship between the student and the teacher. Not the people come in halaqah and they start throwing things. And you know, when people come in the masjid and they leave their children now we're doing what? We're babysitting children, mashallah, here, alhamdulillah. Bring it back. I miss them, wallahi, alhamdulillah. We'll bring him back. But look at the Shafi'i rahmatullah. When he went and he humbled himself. He says, دَلَلْتُ نَفْسِي لِلْعِلْمِ. I humbled myself to acquire the knowledge. So I went, I did not even have paper. I didn't have paper to write what Imam Malik, his mother had to get an intercession from Wali Mecca in order for Malik to accept him as a student. Allahu Akbar ya Shaykh. How much he had to work. And even Malik did not accept him. He was Malik, even the Wali could not come into Malik. And that's the time where the ulama had the haiba. The people feared him when Islam was straight. Not the people now, they hire the ulama. You know, the country hires Al-Azhar. The Azhar has remember Al-Azhar when Al-Azhar was Al-Azhar? Al-Azhar used to say something and everybody would listen. Now the government pays for the Azhar. What do you think the Azhar is going to do? Yes, sir. What fatwa? You want this to be halal? No problems. What happened? Because now may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant the person who turned the Azhar into what is now. May Allah reward him what he deserves and punish him as he deserves, or forgive him as he deserves. And I know who he is, and if you know who he is, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala get rid of the ummah of these such a people that bring us back to who we truly are. Bring the Azhar back and the knowledge and the scholars back to what they deserve. They couldn't say anything, but right now, look at what's going on around the world. It says Thallaja. I used to live in a certain country. I used to go there to acquire knowledge. They say, no, you come to the wrong place, man. Because the ulama here is in a fridge. They can't say a bim. You know what? How to enter the bathroom, how to get out of the bathroom. Is that the whole ummah needs to get this, man? Why don't we talk about the current issue? Why don't we talk about this? Al-Shafi'i rahmatullahi alayhi, he could not even get to Imam Malik. The wali of Mecca could not get in him. But he saw something in the Shafi'i. He accepted him. And he saw the Shafi'i going like this on his hand. He says, you know what? Get out of my halaqah. You don't deserve to be here. He says, why? He says, because you're playing. He says, no, yeah, Imam, I don't have money to write. I don't have money to have paper. I don't have money to have ink to write. So I am writing on my hand your hadith. So it has a photographic memory, so I can remember it. And if you want, test me on the 3 days you've been talking. Wallahi, ya Shaykh, we're talking about mountains here. So again, I'm reiterating, we just talked about Abu Hanifa Nu'man rahmatullahi alayhi the other day, and we're talking about, subhanallah, amazing people, fath, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses people to work on his behalf. Mafatih lil-khayr maghaliq lil-shar, those who open the gates of goodness and close the gates of evil. And that's the taqwa, my brothers and sisters. Shafi'i rahmatullahi alayhi used to memorize Quran so fast. You know what he used to do? He used to place his left hand on the page of the Quran. He would be afraid to memorize this page before the right page, as it goes in order. So he would be says, you know what? In a while, after a while, he says, شكوت لوكيع سوء حفظي فدلني على ترك المعاصي وقال إن العلم نور ونور الله لا يهدى لعاصي. So he gave him the poem, and he was so eloquent, Al-Shafi'i rahmatullahi. He used to actually write the book of the you know, his book, Al amazing, eloquent, so deep in the language. He says, I wrote the in Amiyah. I wrote it in a street language, slang language, so the person would actually understand, the layman person would understand. Look at the Go look at the book of the and the scholars have difficulties. The scholars have difficulties to do the sharh, to explain the book of the The scholar has to explain the explanation of the And now, Allah, that's Allah. You listen, I know where I was born. I know where I come from. You know, Egyptian, right? So we are guilty. We have ruined the Arabic language. We've changed letters. We don't have tha, right? The P. Nothing. We get nothing, dude. Z, za, zu. What the heck happened? I'm telling you. I'll tell you something. I remember Sheikh Dr. Tafiq Zuri, Hafidahullah. He said, I once went to Egypt and I was praying behind an Imam. I couldn't help it but laugh. I couldn't hold my khushu'. Because the Imam was saying, قاف والقرآن المجيد بل عجبوا أن جاءهم منذر. What? Shafi'i rahmatullah. How did we get there? Let's go back to Shafi'i. Come back. Shafi'i rahmatullah alayhi had to endure it. And his mother heard about the Imam Malik rahmatullah alayhi. So she had to borrow al-Muwatta. And he said he memorized al-Muwatta. How much do you think he memorized the Muwatta in? Go ahead. Take a wild guess. 9 days. 9 days he memorized al-Muwatta of Imam Malik. Ya Allah. إيش هذا? Memorized the Quran when he was 7. He was al-Hadith of 10. Young. And that's why actually the scholars will tell you, if you memorize this stuff young, your memories will become very inspirational. It actually helps you. If you memorize early, it helps you when it comes to your memory, the cognitive aspects, and all of that stuff. So this is Imam al-Shafi'i in a nutshell. So you're going back again. He was a hujjah in the tafsir. So again, he's not known for that, but if you go into tafsir Imam al-Shafi'i, you'll be amazed. If you go again, he was usul al-fiqh, he learned. Al-hadith, he did it. Usul wasa'ir al-ulum al-shar'iyyah. He would not stop anything. So Shafi'i rahmatullahi alayhi, 2 years his father was gone. His mother took over. What did she do? She says, oh my God, I can't take this. You know what, son, this is our fate. I can't do anything for you. We just have to be. He would have been just another orphan. But his mother, Shafi'i's mother, rahmatullah, she had seen something. And by the way, the scholar says she moved from Palestine to Mecca because she also saw ru'ya. Not just because she wanted him to go back to his lineage, not just to go back and to make sure that he has the ulum where the ulama is, where the scholars are, and to get the Arabic language properly and all of that stuff. She actually saw a ru'ya that she said that this, your child, will be an inspirational scholar for the ummah. So you used to actually tell him that. It says, لَعَلَّ اللَّهُ يَجْمَعُ عَلَى يَدِكَ شَمْلَ الْأُمَّةِ. Could you imagine when you're a young child and your mother tells you this, which means maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will use you, oh my son, to bring the ummah back together. Like, I don't know how much weight you can handle at 7 years old or before that. Could you imagine? And that's one of the things I'm going to talk to the mothers later on, talk about the ahkam and the things, the stories. We're going to talk about it here. And this, he was, by the way, born in 150. And believe it or not, that's when the year that Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah alayhi died. So as if they were actually transitioning. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses people in and uses people out. And he, in a way, puts the ummah in good hand. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. So this ummah is that comes from the of Shafi'i rahmatullah alayhi. She was a pillar in his way, and so on and so forth. So in that case, it says, أَلْزَمَتْهُ بِحِفْظِ الْقُرْآنِ. Right away, he said, you know what? Start memorizing the Quran. 7 years old, he was doing so. And after that, she go back in the Sunnah. Gets the Imam ibn al-Muwatta. Says, 10 years he memorized it. So 7 years he memorized the Quran, 10 years he memorized the Muwatta, and then she didn't stop there. She went back, and by the way, he became a mufti دون العشرين. I don't know what to tell you. You know, in order for you to be called mufti, I think you have to study for like 7 years or 9 years in different places. And you have to go after high school and after all that stuff. 7 years, memorize Quran. 10 years, mawatta, hadith is under his belt. Under 20 years, he became a mufti. A mufti. Yeah, Allah, subhanAllah, what kind of man was he was? He was so eloquent. He was so, when it comes to poetry, when it comes to everything else, is amazing. He was also known for debates. He's so intellectual. And he says, you know, he's so humble also. He says, you know, every time I debate someone, I wish you Allah, Allahumma ajil haqqa ala lisan akhi. Oh Allah, let my brother say the truth, because I want to learn some more. He didn't say, you know what, I am most knowledgeable. I want to tell you. Listen, sit down. You are talking to me. No. So even then he said he was wrong. He says, ra'yuna, our opinion is right, but it's possible to be wrong. وَرَأْيُ غَيْرُنَا, and the opinion of others, it is improper, but it's possible to be correct. Because they know he knows he doesn't know what he's talking about, but he's so humble against it. And he says, وَاللَّهِ مَا جَادَلْتُ عَالِمًا إِلَّا غَلَبْتَهُ وَمَا جَادَلْتُ جَاهِلًا إِلَّا غَلَبَنِي. By Allah, I never debated a scholar except I beat him. But by Allah, I never debated an ignorant fool person that doesn't take no for an answer, and he will not quit debating, and he doesn't know. Except he beats me, because he will never take a logic or proof for an answer. He will just do so, subhanallah. Okay, so after this, his mother, rahmatullah alayhi, says this word. This is what I'm going to talk about a little bit later about this ayah, and again, what we learned from it. When the hakim, he brought in, he says that you have to be a witness in this court. So the judge separated the two sisters, the two women. He says, ليصلك هذا. You cannot do that. Could you imagine you telling the qadi, the judge, you cannot do that nowadays in a place what we call, you know, Muslim country? That would be the end of you. Contempt of court. Take her out. Blah blah blah. A woman talking to me. Are you talking to me? You know? Don't you know who I am? And all of that stuff. No. So he was quiet, and she gave him the proof. It says, أن تضل إحداهما فتذكر إحداهما الأخرى. Allah, he says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says you cannot separate between the two women when they become to give testimony. So he listened, and when she listened to this, he goes, now this woman is knowledgeable. So we actually respected her and feared the opinion of, and she did not want to go on the wrong. So he listened to her. He says, you know what? Maybe if you have two women, and that's what the ayah means. There are two women to testify. You cannot separate them, because if one forgot something, the other one will remind her. And again, this is nothing to belittle women, as other people use this ayah in the wrong mean. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ says that this is she has the emotions over the mind, because to raise a child to do all of that stuff, and that's not her fault. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created her like that. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was defending the Arab woman in that case. So he says, وَهَذَا يَدُلُّ عَلَى فَضْلِ عَقْلِ وَعِلْمِ. So he says now that is indication to show that she was not just intellectual, she was also knowledgeable. He says, and Shafi'i rahmatullah, as you already know, that he نَشَأَ فقير, he was very poor. He says in Ahl al-Ilm, he says that he used to go to a diwan, a place where they used to write the rules, regulations, and ahkam and all of that. He used to wait outside to say if somebody had a piece of paper that he doesn't need. Could you imagine just looking for any piece of paper in order for you to write on it? He's not going around to give me some money. No. He's giving, can you spare a piece of paper? For him, it was gold. He says, Allahi ma a'zam jihadi hadhihi al-umm al-karima. Allah, he says, this is an amazing jihad for that in order for her to do so. To bring her son to be in that area, he says, for fil afaq, and his seerah, his biography, and his legend, and his legacy would live up till now and forever, till that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decrees the matter. So it says, an-nasab, he is also obviously to be known the lineage of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So why did she move? This is one of the reasons, inshallah. He said there are 3 points that Shafi'i rahmatullah alayhi had qawam, the principles of the foundation in order to be who he was and who he is up till now, for the legacy that he left behind. He says, النسب الشريف الذي يجعله برمق المعالي. He says he had the lineage of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in order to give the honorable to society and acquire that knowledge. He says, اليتيم الذي يعزل عصاميا. He says, you know what? He was also an orphan, like Prophet Muhammad. We're not comparing here. Don't get me wrong. Yatim. So also now he says he was holding on. Why? Because he couldn't pay the teacher to do anything, and you know what happened? He was forced to learn quickly and not ask the teacher to, can you repeat, can you explain, what does that mean? Because he didn't pay him, so he had to learn quick and be polite and didn't say a word. So he was so clever and understanding quick. The students of the Sheikh would go to a Shafi'i rahmatullah alayhi, says, can you teach us what was the Sheikh talking about? So the Imam recognized that this man was very special. His students would go to a Shafi'i rahmatullah, Muhammad ibn Idris al-Shafi'i, that's what his name was, to go to him. So what the Imam used to do, and the teacher used to do, is, you know what, I'm going to use you as my TA, my teacher assistant. So every time the Sheikh wanted to take a break, he would put the Shafi'i rahmatullah alayhi in charge. Every one time that, you know what, he's late, okay, you take over. Anybody wants to have some help, you, Shafi'i, go and teach. Subhanallah, ajib. At a young age, the Shafi'i rahmatullah alayhi was the TA already for the Imam rahmatullah alayhim ajma'in, and Malik rahmatullah recognized in that. As a matter of fact, when the Shafi'i rahmatullah alayhi started to teach, he says, the Imam Malik says he was so eloquent and he was so good. He looked at him and says, he told him, couldn't you wait till I actually go and die to teach? Because now you're saying things that, making me look bad here, man. You're my student, but you're excelling here. Subhanallah. With all due respect to the Malikiyya, because the Malikiyya, the people say, you know what, La yufta wa Malik fil Madina. I understand, we respect all the scholars with all due respect. It wasn't intended for anything else other than that. So it says now, since he had to depend on himself. He did not get a hand me down this, or you know what, the great popon, posh posh, osh gosh, oh my gosh, all of that lovely stuff. He did not have this, the golden art, or the silver, nothing. He had nothing, so he had to depend. He grew up so quick, he had to depend on himself, no other than that also. And the third one is a faqr. Poverty. He says, so he says now he had the pride and the dignity in order for him to come out of that. According to among he says, Hayat al-Shafi'i walid Imam al-Azim. So he says now, among the lessons learned, let's go to the lessons learned from this woman, the great woman that raised Shafi'i rahmatullah. First of all, is من توفرت بعد موت زوجها على من تربيه أبناء الأيتام. So he says, listen, if your husband dies, ukhti, it's not the end of the world. You have to look at this, the mother of Shafi'i, how she actually looked, how the strength he had. She showed the strength. She delegated responsibility. She believed in her son, and so on. Inshallah, we'll be starting a new series that will talk about that, short videos, and hopefully I won't go there yet, but you'll understand what I mean by the elephant theory. Just keep that in mind. And remember what the elephant theory is. And remember again, what is an orphan? Okay, so I'll be talking about that in short stories, inshallah, that will be coming to you soon enough. So one of the things he says, قدمت للأجيال. He says he did what she did. She devoted herself to give to the generations to come. And Imam Shafi'i rahmatullah alayh, we have to be grateful to that woman. The other ones, it says خير السبل التي يتوجه إلى المرء سبل خدمة الدين. It says the best path, my brothers and sisters, is the path that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses you to help others, especially for the path of the deen. He says, وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَوْلًا مِمَّنْ دَعَا إِلَى اللَّهِ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا وَقَالَ إِنَّنِي مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. This is web istinkari. You know what that means? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asking a question in this ayah, but there's an answer already in the question because there's nothing better. So Allah said, وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَوْلًا مِمَّنْ دَعَا إِلَى اللَّهِ. Who is better in speech for those who invite others to the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And you'll find out there's none, according to the ayah. وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا, but do righteous deeds, not just da'wah, walk the talk, ilm and amal, right? Remember, knowledge and action. وَقَالَ إِنَّنِي مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ, I submit my will to Allah. All this what I got, Ya Allah, the ilm and amal is from you, O Allah. Yes? So this is something else, number two, we can accept and respect and learn from that. Number three is the الصعوبات في طرق العالية الهمة. Look, if you want, as they used to teach me, my father-in-law, may Allah bless him, says, if you want the dah, لا تقول يعني, if you want to acquire knowledge, just don't complain. Sheikh Abdullah Idris Hafidahullah, one of my teachers, I'm honored to be one of his students. I remember when I was young, wallahi, I attended one of his, I believe, lectures or fundraisers. And I remember the Sheikh saying, he was tired. If you look at Sheikh Abdullah Hafidahullah, you'll find out that he's almost trying to fight sleep. Wallahi, if you know the Sheikh, you'll know how much he works for the Ummah. He's not here, I'm not breaking his back, wallahi, but he deserves the recognition, because look, if people take take him for granted, the Sheikh take him for granted, wallahi, he deserves much more than that. So I remember when he said in one of his lectures, he says, I remember getting tired. And saying, I can't take this anymore. I remember they were in تَتَوَلَّوْا يَسْتَبْتُ اللَّهُ قَوْمًا غَيْرَكُمْ ثُمَّ لَا يَكُونُوا أَمْثَالَكُمْ. If you turn your back and walk away, it doesn't hurt. It's not harming Allah. It's not harming Islam and Muslims and da'wah. No. Allah will exchange you with people that will not be like you. He says, this ayah keeps me on the straight and narrow. And wallahi, I kept it in the back of my mind. And every time that this poor slave of Allah travels somewhere or thinks that I'm doing something for the ummah, nothing, zero on the left, wallahi, from the Shaykh. Or I remember once Dr. Ridab there, and I met Dr. Jamal Badawi once in Vancouver, I think it was, airport, and we were coming out of a conference. And we were talking how we can't take the travel, Sheikh. And Dr. Jamal Badawi, Hafidahullah, says, wallahi, I used to travel 52 weeks out of the 52 weeks. Every weekend he's somewhere. Every weekend, and we're complaining. I can't tell. The worst time I've ever had, I had to go to Australia 4 times a year. I've done 329,000 miles in a year. And that was like, wow. And this man, every weekend is somewhere. Allahu Akbar, ya Sheikh. And that's why, wallahi, when this Muslim goes to a conference, when you think that you're doing something, when you look at the other mashayikh, you humble yourself down. You've done nothing. Wallahi. I was just talking to my son-in-law, Brother Zanyar, and we were listening to, I was like, I can't take it anymore. This Ramadan is a bit too much. Everybody wants to record. I'm doing blah, blah, blah. So I thought I was going to chill this Ramadan. It's actually one of the busiest Ramadan because there's just so much content we have to get out, and all these organizations need help and all of that stuff. So and he shows me Sheikh Wissam, Hafidahullah, and how many people he taught the Quran. And I was going, I got it. Okay. You got to keep going. So this is the as-su'ubat fi at-tariq. Wallahi, we are nothing. Su'ubat fi at-tariq. You know what? Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahmatullah says, wallahi, what made you do so? He says, if I don't have the difficulties in the path, I would have doubted the path I am taking. You know what that means? If I don't have difficulties on the path I'm taking for da'wah, I would have doubted myself, my sincerity, my niyyah, my intention. On the path I'm taking, it can be right. This is easy. Remember Imam Shafi'i, Imam Ahmad Hanbal, he was dragged out of the masjid. He was imprisoned. He was flogged and so on. Difficulties, my brothers. Imam Abu Hanifa al-Nu'mani, he was also imprisoned and so on and so forth. Difficulties the scholars will have to go. And Imam Shafi'i rahmatullah was not exempt. So he says, among them, says, بعض البصيرة الأم الحريصة. Now, the foresight, the insight that this woman had for the child that had a gift, she recognized that in them. So I'm asking you, my dear sisters, as mothers, recognize the strength in your child. Work on that. Don't turn him into something that they may not have the infrastructure to be a doctor, but they could be the best poet. Work on that. They could be the best engineer, but it doesn't have to be a doctor, ya ukhti, wallahi. Look, I understand. It's your retirement plan. I want him to be blah, blah, blah. But believe it or not, I just received a note now that people don't want to marry a doctor anymore. They're afraid of corona because they're susceptible now. Doctor, you're going to meet with these corona? No, thank you. Obviously, it's a joke, but I'm just saying, look, when you recognize something in your child, work on that. Every child is different, and don't compare it to anybody else. Again, that's a new series coming up. Look for it. And we're talking about some family all around, and inshallah, that we'll elaborate on this a little more, inshallah. Again, among them it says, وَمِنَ الْخَيْرِ أَلَّا تَغْلِبَ الْأُمَّةَ عَاطِفَةَ الْأُمَّةِ. Okay, so that means among the lessons learned from the story is that you cannot be emotional in the way, ukhti, that you suppress, and the ultimate prize that will be paid for is your child. Okay? Meaning, oh no, you can't go abroad to learn because I want you next to me. And the emotional blackmail that I hear from the brothers, you cannot marry this girl because she's taken away from you. You have to wait here and serve me. Ya ilahi, ya ukhti. You cannot be selfish, my dear sister. If you want your husband, no, not your husband, your son. You want your son to be happy, let him marry this girl that doesn't go because he's not from your whatever you tribe, color, skin, and all of that stuff that I hear. All the isms and all the illness of the heart. May Allah help us, wallahi. Bring the ummah back to straight path to Quran and Sunnah. Ameen. You don't use emotional blackmail for your son to be, he's going to have a miserable life. If you're really happy for your son, let him be happy, ukhti. I'm talking about the 4 criteria. So I'm not going away from the Quran and Sunnah, but don't go on the tradition to ignore the Quran and Sunnah just to make you happy. La wallahi. Look, you cannot be in such. And by the way, how many times, don't cross the street, cut your, we're raising wusses, we're raising babies. Yes? We need to raise men, not males. So you cannot have your emotions overtake your logic and look for the things. Another point that we're going to talk about here. It says, كثير من الأئمة الكبار رهين أمهاتهم. Okay, that's what I actually I started with. That's what I'm going to finish with. Inshallah, then I go to the ayah. Okay, so please understand that among the greatest scholars that lived among the ummah were actually raised by their mother, including the one I just told you, this mountain. And there's plenty to talk about all the scholars, but I wouldn't have enough time to go all of that stuff. We're just giving you a little bit of flower from this garden. So now he was raised by his mother. How you like me now? So what do you think of this mama's boy anymore? It has a negative connotation, but I don't recommend it. It's a mama's boy. If you know what I'm talking about, brothers, yes. But really, if you look at the greatest men, it was the mother that was behind them. So let's give respect where respect is due. Let's talk about the ayah and take some of it, and we'll finish with that, inshallah. Again, this Surah Al-Baqarah is 282. And again, if one is led astray or forgetful, then the other will get them back on track. This ayah al-Karima is أطول ayah في Quran, by the way. This is ayah al-Dayn. This ayah of the debt. It is the longest ayah in the Quran. You understand? It is how serious the debt is. May Allah alleviate our debts, Ya Rab. Say Ameen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the sincere, because the hadith says, those who have the intention, Allah will help you. Yasudda'an. May Allah help us and grant us sincere intention, inshallah. Ameen. So it says, this thing, it says, أول من جحد بها آدم. There's a story in this hadith. Adam alayhi salam, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took the duriyah, he took the lineage, and he showed him. He says, who is this? And who is this? And who is this? This is Dawood. He liked him very much. He says, this is one of my lineage. He says, Dawood. He says, yes. Kam umrihi? He says 60 years old. He will be granted 60 years to live. And he was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave Adam 1,000 years, 1,000. So he says, give him 40 years of mine. So he says, listen, I give him as a gift, Allah, take from my 1,000 years, 60 years to be granted to my son, Dawood alayhi salam. But the narration of the hadith says, but when the angel of death came at 960, you owe me 440. What's wrong with you? I was told I have 1,000. Jahada biha. But the one Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says it was decreed and it was documented and the angels witnessed it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, another narration is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala أكمل لداود المئة وأكمل لآدم الألف. So even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gave the 100 to Dawood alayhi salam and gave 1,000 to Adam alayhi salam. Of course, this is a narration. It's not a ruling, so don't go into hukm. Just it's a ruling. Okay, on it, even it may be weak in narration. So, and this is among the other narrations. إن رجلا من بني إسرائيل. This man had borrowed money, and he said, the man says, أين الشهيد? Where is the witness? He says, كفى بالله شهيدا. It is sufficient that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is my witness. The man stopped. He says, أين الكفيل? Who's going to sponsor you? He says, وكفى بالله كفيلا. He says, صدقت. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is my witness, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is my sponsor. So the man gave it to him, and he trusted him. So the man took his money, and he went away. Alhamdulillah, Allah blessed him, and now he's able to pay the money back on time. So he went to the shore side to look for the ship to take him back to the man. He couldn't. He waited all day, and there was none. He says, Ya Allah. When that man asked me, who is my witness? I said, you are my witness. He says, who is your sponsor? Says, you are my sponsor. Oh Allah, I don't want anybody to say that I lied in your honor and misuse your. He says, oh Allah, here's the money. I see a piece of bottle. I did it, and here's a piece of wood. I'm going to attach it to it, and here's the money in it with the message. And he says, Astawdi'akum Allah. So I put you in the protection of Allah. And he pushed it toward the shores. So the man that was waiting for him all day, he received that piece of wood, floating wood, and he took it, and he opened it, and he couldn't believe his eyes. So when he took it back, he was shaking his head. How could that be? So, but that man that borrowed money still was insistent to go back, and he was waiting for the first ship to come over, and he took the ship still. And he got to the man, and he gave him the 1,000 dinar. Again, he says, did you send something? He says, what do you mean? He says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala paid your debt. Take your 1,000 and go ahead, enjoy your life. Again, don't you get goosebumps here, Sheikh? So when we have a debt, my brothers and sisters, may Allah give us the honor and the ability to be able to give it back and be honest with people. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do that. And not with the intention that we're going to spoil the people and misuse it and take it and run them. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from that. Ya Rab, Ameen. So again, I'm letting you know, brothers and sisters, if you have a debt, pay it off first. Before you buy this large screen TV, that car and credit card, cut them. Go for the envelope theory. When you have it in the envelope, go buy it. Because if you're going to go in debt, and listen, wallahi, I'm not talking about my high horse. Listen to that message to me first. You understand? Because if you're not going to, I deserve more than that. You're actually turning down. You're not content with Allah's decree. I deserve better, Ya Allah. So from now on, we have to learn, my brothers and sisters. Live according to your means. And I'm talking to my own, wallahi, myself first and my own children. I told them never get into debt. Number one reason for divorce. Yes? So let's listen, inshallah, accordingly, because even martyrdom will not help you in your grave, my brothers. You have a debt. Prophet Muhammad would not pray the janazah on the person who does it. Ya Allah, grant us the ability to pay off our debts, Ya Rab, Ameen. Okay, so this is basically what I'm going to leave you with. A beautiful hope in our mothers. Beautiful hope in the ummah, from the word that starts with For that, I thank you, sisters, and please forgive us on behalf of men that we've taken you for granted, who did not give you the dues, as nations rise and fall because of that. And again, a whole army came to defend your honor. And the measuring stick for a man is how good he is his wife. For the simple fact, Prophet Muhammad put his eggs in one basket, best of you, the best of your wife, because she will know your character, and she is your key to be with him in Jannah. The best of you to my heart, closest to me in love, close to me hereafter, the best of character. You have to look at your wife, my dear brother, now. She is your key to be with Prophet Muhammad in Jannah. And my dear sons and daughters, kiss the hand of your mother every day and every night before she goes to sleep and when she wakes up in the morning, as I've always asked you to do. And kiss the forehead of your father every day and every night, as do so, because again, I remember that's the hand that raised you, bathed you, fed you, cleaned you, and wipe the tears off your eyes. So make sure you don't ever take it for granted. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let me finish you with one reminder. Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma. I know, forgive me for the link, but let me finish with something that you take home. Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu says, if your parents go to sleep and they're angry because of you or crying because of you, if you die that night, there's 1 or 2 gates of hellfire waiting for you. And if your parents go to sleep happy or smiling because of you, if you die that night, there's 1 or 2 gates in Jannah waiting for you. Your choice. Let's open the gates of Jannah and close the gates of hellfire by being good to our parents, especially the mother, 3 times higher than your father. Ameen wa akhbar. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalamu alayhi wa sahbihi wa tabi'in. Jazakumullah khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.